Talia added with a grin. Same, Riley said, feeling the corners of her mouth tug into a smile. The sun was starting to dip as they packed up, hugging the garden staff and thanking them before heading to their cars. Riley's mind felt clearer. As she pulled out of the lot in her Jeep, the afternoon's peace stayed with her. But that sliver of doubt about Brian was still there, quietly humming beneath the surface. Her phone buzzed on the passenger seat with a message from Brian. "What you up to tonight?" Riley smirked, typing back, "Getting into something good if I'm seeing you, LOLL." Brian's reply came quick. "You know it. Be there around 8. Riley smiled to herself. Tonight, at least, would be easy. She rolled down the windows and let the evening breeze fill the car as she drove off, the city unfolding before her, ready for whatever the night would bring. The air was warm, with a gentle breeze rolling through as Riley stepped out of her building and spotted Brian's car pulling up. She slid into the passenger seat, the scent of leather and his cologne meeting her. "Hey, beautiful," Brian greeted with that easy, smooth charm. "Hey yourself," Riley replied, buckling her seatbelt. The place they were headed to was one of Riley's favorite spots, a hole in the wall that reminded her of home. The kind of place where the walls were covered in old vinyl records and framed black and white photos of blues legends, and the food was served hot on mismatched plates. The moment they walked in, Riley felt the familiar warmth of the space. They snagged a table near the back, where the lighting was dim and the hum of conversation was low and easy. A waitress came by, handing them menus and grinning. "Y'all picked a good night. Live music starts in about an hour." "Perfect," Brian said, glancing at Riley. "This place is a vibe." "Told you," she replied with a wink, flipping open the menu. They lingered at the restaurant until the band finished their first set. Afterward, Brian drove them back to Riley's place. The drive was quiet but comfortable, with the city lights flickering outside the window. When they got inside, Riley kicked off her shoes and headed to the kitchen to pour them both a drink. "You want wine or your nasty Remy?" "Wine's cool," Brian said, settling onto the couch and stretching out. Riley handed him a glass and plopped down next to him, the soft hum of music still playing on her speakers. They sipped in silence for a moment, their legs brushing again, this time lingering. The energy between them was unmistakable, a steady electric pulse as Riley slid closer, feeling the warmth between them. They let the night unfold naturally, soft kisses deepening, hands finding familiar paths, fingers tracing the curves and edges that felt like second nature. Brian leaned back, watching Riley with a grin as she teased him, her fingertips skimming his chest and drifting lower. She kissed along his neck, trailing down slowly, savoring the moment. "Damn, girl," Brian whispered, his voice thick with anticipation. Riley smiled, her fingers exploring with slow intention. The way he responded, his breaths deepening, added a thrill she hadn't felt in a long time. His hand found her curls, resting gently, simply savoring her presence. She let the tension build, setting a deliberate, steady pace that kept them both at the edge. He groaned in response, his voice tight with restraint, and she smiled at the effect she had on him. "Riley," he murmured, his voice full of need. She gave him a playful look before sliding back up, brushing her lips against his. "Can't let you have everything just yet," she teased, leaving him wanting more. Brian chuckled, flipping her onto her back with ease, his grin widening as he kissed down her neck, his hands moving slowly. He explored her with a calm confidence, making her gasp at each gentle touch. As he continued, the anticipation grew, leaving her in a daze, savoring every moment. Brian's movements were intentional and tender, exploring with a familiarity that only came with trust. She responded to his rhythm, the intensity between them deepening. God, you're incredible, he whispered, his voice thick with admiration. Riley's hands gripped the sheets as he continued, the gentle pressure building. She felt herself leaning into the sensation, her body responding naturally. The combination of his touch and their shared connection brought her closer to the edge, each moment building on the last. He encouraged her to let go, his voice a warm murmur that settled over her, coaxing her deeper into the moment. You ready? He whispered, his voice rough and tender. Yes, she gasped, rocking against him. The release came slowly, her body finding relief in the intensity of the moment. She let go, her body shuddering as she felt wave after wave of sensation wash over her. That's it, he murmured, his voice a steady, comforting presence. Just like that. They stayed close, catching their breath in the calm afterward. Brian shifted, his hand brushing her cheek as he leaned close, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. They lay there for the next hour talking about nothing in particular, enjoying the moment. Gotta be up early tomorrow, he said softly, pulling on his clothes with the ease of someone who'd done this before. Riley watched him, her head propped on her arm. She felt a sliver of something she couldn't quite place, something distant but not enough to disrupt the calm of the night. Brian leaned down, pressing a kiss to her forehead. I'll text you later, he said, his voice steady and sure. Riley smiled softly. Yeah, later. And with that, he was gone, slipping out into the night. The soft click of the door echoed through the quiet room as Riley lay back, exhaling deeply. She stared at the ceiling for a moment, feeling both content and contemplative. Something was different, just a little off, but she couldn't quite figure out what. She pulled the sheets around her, letting the thought drift as exhaustion pulled her under. Seeds of change. The bistro buzzed with quiet conversation and the hum of espresso machines. Soulful music filled the space, setting a relaxed but thoughtful mood. If I Was Your Woman by Gladys Knight floated from the speakers, making Riley hum along as she sipped her mimosa. Simone, Talia, Ashley, and Shay sat around the table with her, each woman comfortable in her own way, legs crossed, scrolling phones, chatting between bites of shrimp and grits. A soft breeze drifted through the open patio doors, making the greenery sway and the moment feel light. But just beneath it was the weight of decisions hanging over everyone's heads. Simone set down her coffee with a sigh. I have some news. My husband got offered a position in Houston. It's a great opportunity, but moving with 3 kids? She shook her head. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Ashley raised a brow. Houston? Damn, girl, that's a big change. Right? Simone said with a small laugh. The girls are settled in their schools, and my mom lives nearby. I don't know how we'd make it work, but it's on the table, I guess. Riley leaned back, considering. Simone was practical. If Houston was even a thought, it had to be serious. Talia shifted in her seat, fiddling with her water glass. Funny you even mention Houston, sis. I've been thinking about Houston, too. Everyone turned toward her in surprise. As I've been sourcing materials for my skincare line, all the best options are all in Houston. Stretching the money would be easier there, but it's scary, y'all. I've never lived anywhere but Memphis. Shay gave an encouraging nod. It's scary, but it's also dope that you're even considering it. Change is good. Simone smiled knowingly. It might feel scary now, but that may be how you know it's the right move. Riley listened, quiet but reflective. The idea of relocating had been gnawing at the back of her mind for a while, but she hadn't given it much thought until now. "What about you, Shay?" Talia asked. "You still thinking about Atlanta?" "Yeah," Shay replied, cutting into her French toast. "They made the offer last week. I love Atlanta, but I don't know if I want to leave everything I've built here. It's not just about work, it's about starting fresh, and that's not easy." "That's real," Riley said, nodding. "Starting over sounds nice, but it's not as easy as people think." She swirled her mimosa thoughtfully, considering her own situation with Brian. Part of her felt the need for something new, something outside of Memphis, but the other part of her wasn't ready to admit that yet. Ashley, always the blunt one, leaned back with a smirk. "All y'all talking about new cities and big moves. I guess I need to find me a sugar daddy in Houston, too." The table erupted in laughter, easing the tension and making the moment feel lighter. But the seed had been planted. Change was coming, whether they were ready or not. Morning ritual. Outstanding start. The sun slipped lazily through the blinds as Riley stretched across the bed, letting her limbs loosen. She blinked at her phone. 8:30 a.m., right on time. She had brunch with the girls, but before she could head out, she needed her usual moment of ease to gather herself. These rituals were her anchors, a way to settle her mind and shake off any lingering doubts from the night before. She swung her legs off the side of the bed, padding barefoot to the bathroom. As she brushed her teeth, she reached over to her phone and connected it to the speaker. Within seconds, the smooth intro of the Gap Band's Outstanding floated through the air. "Girl, you knock me out." Riley smiled, her hips naturally swaying to the rhythm. Music always set the tone for the day, and today she was going to make it a good one. No overthinking, no doubts, just brunch with her people. Back in her room, Riley lit a small scented candle on the dresser, letting the delicate aroma blend with the lingering scent of her signature oil. She pulled open the closet, her fingers skimming over her wardrobe. Her outfit for the day came together without much thought, an oversized, off-the-shoulder sweater in a soft cream, paired with a white-ribbed tank that peeked from underneath. She slid into her tan cargo pants, appreciating how comfortable they felt. Then came the kicks. Tan Nike Dunks. They gave the perfect mix of relaxed and fly, just like she wanted to feel today. She added a pair of chunky gold hoops, stacked a couple of bangles on her wrist, and slipped on her wooden watch. Her nails, painted in a deep nude, tapped against her jewelry box as she adjusted her rings. Satisfied with her look, she glanced in the mirror and grinned. "Yeah, this works." The Gap Band was still grooving in the background, and Riley couldn't help herself. She danced a little, twirling in front of the mirror. Her curls bounced with each move, and she sang along. "Outstanding!" She giggled, amused at herself, but it felt good to be lighthearted, to feel herself in the moment. Before leaving, she grabbed her black tote bag. Something simple, practical. She dabbed her oil on her wrists, the scent mingling perfectly with the morning air. It smelled like confidence, like possibility. With one last glance around the room, she shut the door behind her. Outside, the Jeep hummed to life as she started the engine. She turned the volume up slightly, letting the music carry her mood as she pulled out of the lot. It was going to be a good day, or at least, that's what she was telling herself. The day everything changed. The sun hung high over Memphis, bright but not overwhelming. Riley parked her Jeep along the curb of the cozy bistro tucked in the heart of Midtown. It had been 2 weeks since she'd seen the girls. Between work, getting settled, Brian, and their own lives, Riley'd been swamped the last couple weeks. She was looking forward to this. The brunch spot buzzed with chatter and the occasional clink of mimosa glasses. She pulled her tote over her shoulder and adjusted the oversized sweater that casually slipped off one shoulder, the tank underneath peeking just enough. Her tan Nike dunks made no sound on the pavement as she stepped inside. "Hey, here she is," Talia called from their usual table by the window, a playful smirk on her face. Simone sat beside her, already halfway into a plate of shrimp and grits. Next to them was Ashley, her sunglasses propped on her head, scrolling on her phone, and across from them was someone new. "This is Kayla," Ashley said, motioning to the new woman, who offered a friendly wave. "Sis is my coworker. Decided to bring her along today." Riley gave a polite nod, sliding into the seat across from Kayla. "What's good, Kayla? Nice to meet you." "Hey, same. I've heard good things," Kayla said, her smile easy and genuine. She looked like the type to get along with everyone. Soft curls framed her face, and her energy was vibrant without being overbearing. The conversation drifted to plans for the day, shared laughs, and the usual brunch banter. Talia said, "I'm knee-deep in product sourcing." "Oh, that reminds me," Kayla said, setting her glass down. "I've got to source these certain chairs for my friend Sarah. She and her husband are renewing their vows, and it's hard to do anything with them with his schedule. They've been married forever. It's been beautiful to see them come back around." "That's sweet," Simone replied. "How long have they been married?" Kayla thought for a moment. 17 years, I think. Yeah, since high school. Brian works for the gas company, and Sarah teaches kindergarten. Riley's heart paused mid-beat. The name Brian hit her like a flicker of deja vu she didn't ask for. She exchanged a quick look with Talia, who tilted her head slightly, sensing the shift. Talia leaned in, her voice light, but with an undercurrent of curiosity. "You got a picture of them? I think I know Brian." Kayla perked up, clearly enjoying the chance to share. "Oh yeah, I've definitely got one on my phone. Hold on." She tapped through her Instagram. Simone shot Riley a glance, her eyebrow raised just slightly. A silent, "You good?" Riley gave the tiniest nod, though her heart beat a little faster. Kayla turned her phone around, showing a photo of a smiling couple. The man in the picture wore an easy grin Riley knew all too well. It was Brian, her Brian, or the Brian she thought was hers. The air felt thick, but the girls held their composure. Ashley's lips pressed into a thin line, and Simone coughed quietly to cover her reaction. Talia tilted her head, giving a subtle knowing smirk, but didn't say a word. "Oh, wow," Talia finally said with a soft chuckle. "I didn't know he was married." Her tone was perfectly pitched, neither accusatory nor surprised, just neutral. Kayla, unaware of the undertone, just smiled. "Yep, they've been through a lot, but they're solid. Sarah's been my friend forever. Brian is lucky to still have her." Riley's stomach twisted, but she kept her expression smooth. "That's nice for them," she murmured, carefully sipping her mimosa. Simone gave Riley a subtle nod, silently signaling, "Let me know if you need an out." But Riley shook her head slightly. She wasn't about to crumble. Not here, not now. She wasn't even angry yet, just disoriented, like reality had shifted beneath her feet. After a few more minutes of small talk, Riley cleared her throat. "I'm gonna head out, ladies," she said lightly. "Got some things to do today." Ashley reached out and gave Riley's hand a brief squeeze, knowing she didn't need to say anything more. "I'll catch up with you later." Talia just gave Riley a soft smile and a nod, her eyes understanding more than they said aloud. Riley pushed her chair back and stood. "Nice meeting you, Kayla," she said smoothly before turning toward the door. "Nice meeting you too," Kayla called after her, still blissfully unaware of the earthquake she'd just set off. The moment Riley stepped outside, The cool autumn air hit her, and she let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding.